Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe. Welcome everyone, I am your host, Joe Pavlansky, pop culture historian, writer for Scary Monsters magazine, and curator of the Crypt of Classics. Co-hosting as always is the maestro of mail order mysteries and owner of houseoftheunusual.com, the one, the only, the adventurous, the intrepid, Eddie Guevara. Eddie, my man, what's going on tonight?
How are you, Joe? A lot is going on, Joe. I've been doing a lot of thinking. How are you? How's everything great down there?
Yeah, not too bad. Can't complain over here in Ohio. We've had beautiful weather, and it's like fall started back over again. So, what's on your mind tonight, Eddie?
Well, I'll tell you what, the weather here has been in the 70s for most of the week, which is amazing for this time of year, making October and the fall season. October's past, of course, but we still have October weather. Joe, you know what? I was thinking with all this stuff going on really quick, with the coronavirus and all the people inside, we've all had time to think. And I was reminiscing back as to when I was young, as to what made me want to order stuff from comic book. What was it that captured my imagination growing up, and what made me who I am today? And I think most of the stuff was when we go back in the late 60s, early 70s, okay? I grew up in Manhattan. And Manhattan, let's say, I think every town in the United States, or most classrooms in the United States for young kids, you had either a popular crowd or one person popular or one person that was a bully. Now, if you were not one of those bullies, a lot of times comic books, especially the ads that offer monsters that were bigger than life, compensated for your fear. And you would order that stuff thinking, hey, you know what? And a good one is say, for example, the 7-foot monster ghost. With the 7-foot monster ghost, in the ad, it read that it was bigger than life, 7 feet tall, obeys your commands. And watching movies like, or shows like, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and stuff, where Dracula says to the Frankenstein monster, come, it put in the brain of a young child that was reading Richie Rich comic books like myself, that was already living a life in his mind that was technically a fiction. It would help me think that by me ordering several of these items that were bigger than life, it would somehow give me some control over the outcome of much of my life experiences. Such if I came across a bully or something, by me having my 7-foot, monster ghost, I could dominate the situation. But basically, the reason I was saying that is because I was reminiscing again throughout the week about all those days and times. And I said to myself, that's exactly why so many people that come to the House of the Unusual, so many people that write into me and tell me those similar stories as to why their memory is brought back to when they were kids, and they love all this stuff, and they love all the novelties and all the magic and stuff. It's because it always promises you something that in real life you're not achieving, such as it gives you more manliness. Like when you buy those mail order courses that it says you will become strong and everybody's going to like you. All the girls are going to gravitate to you because of your newfound strength.
Yeah, you don't want to be the kid on the beach that gets the sand
kick,
on
right?
him.
You want to be the one that does the kicking of the sand. But the funny thing is that all those ads actually did that. They took the era, the time living in the 70s that I was living in. And I'm saying because I am from there, but anybody who's my age is obviously from the 70s. But anybody growing up in either rural America or big cities like New York and stuff, it was just different. Classrooms were different. Like I said, a good example is when you watch movies like Fast Time at Richmond High. It was very like that in the 70s, You had the popular crowd and you had the everyday crowd that was not popular. And then you had the kid that was a bully, and I think every classroom had one type of bully or another.
There's always been, forms of throughout history. I mean, going back centuries, there's always been forms of escapism for one reason or another. And I think that, when we're young and, growing up in, 1970s, 80s and 90s, you were always, looking for, you always, most of the time felt like you didn't, fit in, and you were still growing, your brain was still growing, and you were trying to find your path in life. So while you were trying to find that, if things weren't, going the way that you wanted, like they usually don't, you kind of look for that form of, escapism, and you ended up daydreaming in class a lot, or doodling on your notepad, or when you went home, you read comic books, watched, horror or sci-fi movies, and it was a way to get you away from the stuff that you didn't want to be a part of at school, maybe stuff that was going on at home, or just a break from, everything that was going on in your life. Because, even though as you're a kid, you still have a lot of pressure. You have the pressure of trying to be popular at school. You have the pressure of getting good grades, of doing what your adults say, being good at sports. So you have all that pressure. So really, like, how you're talking the mail order stuff, and comic books and monster movies and all that. It was a way to just to get out of this reality and enter a new reality where you did have some type of control over it. You could read those comic books and put yourself into that story, and you could stop and start that story whenever you wanted. So it did add a kind of control to your life, whereas a young child, maybe you're 10, 8, 9, 10 years old, where you didn't have any control. So it filled in that gap for you, I guess.
Well, you know what? If you really think about it, everything from Superman comic books to Batman to any superhero, I think the reason they became popular in their time when they were created, even today, is because it lets a person live within their own mindset some type of adventure that's not real. It's kind of like it gravitates to where you say, for example, Superman makes you feel like you go into a movie and you're like looking at Superman and stuff, and inside your brain you're playing in the role that be me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of
Right.
people, not a lot, I think basically all us humans as a whole, somehow one way or another, always want to be popular, always want to be, and that's why mail order does so well, especially with those people that are selling you books on how to get rich and how to become pop. The first thing they always show you, especially those multi-level marketing companies, is they'll bring them a Porsche, Mercedes Benz, and then they'll tell you how this guy who is a doctor gave up his doctorate and just to do this multi-level marketing, whatever. But it's always about you. You want to be popular. You want to be famous. You want to be liked. And that is where mail order, especially in the 70s, where there was no rules from the Federal Trade Commission or anything, where they just ripped off the heck out of kids, because kids already have a wild imagination, especially when they're reading books like Richie Rich. I mean, I used to read Richie Rich, and in my mind, as I was reading the book, it was like actually watching a movie. It became somehow alive to me, and I was like in that storyline. And then,
Comic books kind of did the same thing for me when I was, growing up in the 80s. And also, a lot of the 80s toys like G.I. Joe and He-Man, because you look at comic books, and every superhero and every villain in the comic book is an outcast of some sort. Going all the way back to Superman, Superman, his origin story is that of an outcast, of an alien coming to a planet, and he has these powers and he's different than all of these kids, yet he's trying to fit in and he's trying to find his way. And then you could fast forward that to the X-Men. You have a group of mutants who were, they're outcast from society and they're trying to find their own way. So, I think a lot of kids, really gravitated to these superheroes, and they seen themselves in these characters, and they seen that how these characters were put in different situations and the hardships that they went through, and they were able to thrive and survive and do good things. And I think that resonated a lot with kids. And I think it, to some extent that it still does. I know comic books and mail order stuff is not as popular today as it was, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even, going into the 90s. But, that was just it was a huge part of growing up
Well,
in that time frame, whether people
well,
realize it or
here's the
not.
thing: when you're saying it's well, here it's alive today, even in larger portions that it was back then. But what they did is when the FTC started cracking down on magazines and comic books and ads that were taking advantage of kids, they turned their weapons over to adults, and they then they started taking advantage of the adults. And here's the thing: like for example, back I remember in the mid '90s or early '80s, they had a thing called the Gut Buster. It was like this spring mechanism that was just a spring with like a handlebar, looked like a bicycle handlebar. You put your feet through it, and then you would do sit-ups with it.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember
they
those. Yeah.
sold millions. And then they had the Ginsu knife, where you see the guy slicing, and then they had the other thing called DD7, which was like a toothpaste tube. And I mean, they still came on board and robbed millions, because
Oh, yeah.
the thing is that what mail order does is it always promises you something magical, something bigger than life, something that's going to let you accomplish what the ordinary can't. And
And what's funny about that is that when we were kids, you were always disappointed, but now looking back as an adult, were you really disappointed, or do you have fond memories of that?
well,
So
as
was
an
that
adult, like I said, as an adult, and that's why so many thousands of collectors, uh,
or trying to buy their
yeah, are
stuff
trying, but
back?
they're also coming to me telling me that thank you for the disillusionment that I offered them. That's what they had as a kid, and they wanted to bring back their childhood. But you know what, though?
You
I'll answer that question in another way. Me, myself, did I ever feel that I was being ripped off? I don't think I ever comprehended the word what ripoff really was. Was I disillusioned? I gotta be honest, I don't even really think. I might have been like, huh, what is this? But I was kind of happy with the product, and somehow my feeble brain would accept it and treasure it, right? That's the way I was. I can't talk specifically for everybody, because I'm sure some people did get mad and they were a totally different breed of person. But one thing I'm going to tell you though, what better? I mean, if you look at the ad, for example, for Monster Size Monsters, it says, imagine your friends walking into your room and seeing this life monster, bigger than life Frankenstein. And then they go to tell you how powerful it was. The creature that overtook the world, whatever it's, I think the ad, I don't have the ad in front of me right now, but it says, bigger than life Frankenstein, the creature created by an evil genius who terrorized the world. So you're like, wow, man, I'm getting this monster. I'm going to put this monster in my room. Imagine how proud I will be to own this bigger than life monster, and all my friends would either love me or be afraid of me. You follow me? You know why I'm telling
yeah,
you
oh
that? Because
yeah.
that was me. When I was a kid and I read that, that was me. When I bought the 7-foot Monster Ghost, I imagined control. I imagined power. And I thought exactly what I just said. I gravitated to the ad like a hawk. I wanted it more than the sun to come up. And when I got the item, I went, huh? But somehow I felt that the item was still worth $1. In fact, I didn't think I was being ripped off. I thought that the other one from the Melton Company was going to be better because it had a better image. I still got sold into the ad. And that is why so many people buy this stuff, why so many people collect this stuff. And Joe, one thing I will tell you too, when you go to conventions, and that's another topic that I wanted to talk about, and you wanted to talk about conventions. When you go to these conventions, the sheer number of people that show up, all like-minded, all collectors, where you see in 2 or 3 days over 1 to 200,000 people attend, it tells you that everybody somehow wants to reminisce on those beautiful days when mail order transformed our lives. and made us who we are today.
Well, that's the thing. As adults, we're every day we're going and dealing with, adulting and, and work and kids and, bills and everything else. So, we're as adults now, we're looking for that form of escapism that helped us when we were kids. So we're gravitating, back towards that. Now, I remember being, had to have been maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere around there. And I was a huge I loved my G.I. Joe toys. And I remember being up in, we had a Cape Cod house, and I had all my toys in the attic, and my dad telling me, "Are you going to play with these toys forever?" And I said, "Well, at least till I'm 18 and I go in the military or, go to college or something." And he says, "No, he goes, you'll be done with it soon." And I remember, telling him, no, I'm playing with these toys until I'm 18. And then, eventually as I got older, it started, weaning back. I had, different interests and all that, sports, girls, everything else. But then, when I went into the military at 17, and somewhere around when I think I was about 20 or 21, I met, one of my buddies there. He was about the same age as I was at the time, and he was a big G.I. Joe collector. So when we were down in North Carolina, we would hit the flea markets and all that and find these old G.I. Joe toys that brought us back to our childhood. And it was a form of escapism. And that kind of like reignited my love and passion for the toys. And, still to this day, fast forward 20 years or so, I'm still that huge collector of G.I. Joes and other stuff. And I still look for them because it is that form of escapism, for, whether it be 3 minutes or an hour that I'm, cleaning the toys or, doing whatever with them, I'm transported to this, maybe an alternate reality of back when I'm a child, or to this other reality of, Monster World or G.I. Joe World or He-Man World or something. And just for that little bit, little bit of time, there is no bills, there is no work, there's no nothing but just that sheer joy. And I think a lot of people today are still looking for that. And I do believe that there's some people out there that are, that they're so caught up in the adult world that they are forgetting that there's still a child within them that is yearning for them to go back, whether it's an hour a week or, a few times a week or just something, just it's yearning to go back to that time when everything was simpler and they were just having a good time, and it was very carefree. And I think mail order comic books, toys, did that for a lot of people. And I still see that, to some extent today. And I do see some people that just, they refuse to grab onto that side of them, and they kind of, still push it away. I don't know if it's, because of a sense of pride or they or afraid to go back to that time and be caught up in it. I don't really know what the answer is to that.
Well, you see, especially with today, here we have a situation, or one of the situations I've seen. I'm 56, you're 42, correct? Or 44, I'm sorry.
40.
I didn't mean to give an extra 2 years of you there. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't need that.
I'll give an example. I'll take Dave Harverstad as an example on you. When I first met you guys, well, I met you not too long ago, but when I first met Dave, he was in his early 20s. Him and Kirk and stuff have just encountered in their life the comic book era. They saw the ads. They were growing in the early 80s, I guess, whatever. And as they were growing, they're like, wow, this stuff is cool in comic books. Hey, Dad, I want to order this. And then guess what? They order and the company was out of business, and they would get a letter saying the company is no longer in business. So they always yearn for the products they never had. So they create a desire on a generation which is in their 40s today of like, man, that was such a cool time. I wish I had those items. And I saw that in David. When I first met David, the amount of times he would call me and pick my brain, and we go over all those products. And it was like David was a guy in his 60s living in the brain of a 20-plus-year-old kid, because he was so thrilled by hearing of those items like Kirk was, which he said in the book Mail Order Mystery. I think in the introduction he does it, or in his blog, he talks about when he saw that stuff, he was just born a little bit after the era, but he always yearned to have those items that I myself lived through. So living
And you know, and I think that's why conventions
exactly.
are so popular, is that because it's a great place to find those items you're looking for, but it's also a time where you don't have to worry about anything else, but you're like a kid again. You get to people dress up, or you get to see people dressed up. There's the cosplay. There's just meeting with like-minded people, and there's no other worries about people judging you, because everybody's there doing their own thing, and they're just enjoying their time. It's really like you're a kid again, but you're around your own your own
Well,
group. And I think that's why conventions still remain popular, and I don't ever see them going away. I see them
bigger and
keep
bigger.
getting bigger
Well,
and
you
bigger.
see,
Yeah.
basically, here's the thing: either one, you have a Bible in your hands, and you spend your life in the Word of God and stuff, which I myself do most of the time. But other than that, say for example, you have a person who is young today, they go out there, and there's the problem between back then and now is there's a lot of stuff happening out there right now. There's a lot of crazy. We're living at a time right now, this last year, which has historically never really been in our lifetime this crazy, right? That we know of. I'm talking about our lifetime,
Oh,
not prior to
exactly.
us. There were years even worse, but I'm saying in our lifetime, this is the first time we've seen this. So now what happens? You have youth out there that one have not been introduced to like comic books, to conventions, and there's so much they're being off. They're offer video games that they go into the video game, they get consumed by it, and they start living the life of the video game, just like we did when comic books or conventions. The point is there's so much in today's day and age that it's kind of hard to gravitate to one subject because you have so many subjects on the table. But a good example of this is, you take for example Twitch. I think Twitch is owned by Amazon. It's a gaming channel, kind of like eBay, but people play games there. They get subscribers. I met a young kid who, I mean, I'm not gonna say the name because I don't want to. I don't think I don't want to get him whatever. But anyway, this kid last November started playing video games. He's a good game player. He's phenomenal, and he's got, which it blew me away. He came out of school as an accountant. While coming out of school, his parents told him, "What do you want to do?" And he's like, the kid is 18, whatever, or 20. I don't know. He just came out of college, whatever age he is. He's a very young kid. He built a computer, spent about $2,000, and started playing gaming. He's got 674,000 subscribers to his channel on Twitch, and they're paying him each $6.84 a month. So it's
That's
insane.
crazy. I mean,
It's
just to sit
insane.
there and play video games.
But
Yeah. I mean, there's these kids are becoming millionaires off of playing video games online, and just enjoying themselves and staying in that kind of like an
exactly,
alternate
the
reality.
alternate reality for me and you was a little different. When I was born, video games were not around. When video games started coming in, they were very barbaric in its creation. You had like the ping pong. You had really kind of barbaric video games, right? Ancient monster dinosaurs of today's day and age. Now, what we had was the comic book, the ad, the monster magazine, and we couldn't go out there and reach mass crowds but we could go out there and pick a niche of what you either wanted to collect monsters, you wanted to collect, and we became collectors. Some of us became hoarders, not to mention names, by the way. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's
It's
a
a fine
fine line
line.
there.
It's a
I always
fine
I
line.
always tell everyone yeah, there's a fine. Yeah, hoarders got stuff everywhere. Our stuff's a little bit
Yeah,
more
I'm organized
organized.
where
It is
I'll
on
give
the
you a good
line.
example. I went to, talking about conventions and like, the popularity of convention. Well, first thing, the conventions that I go to are, and the ones you probably attend to from Comic Con and stuff. The first thing, every actor from the 60s and 70s that appeared on television usually make an appearance in person. So we, as fans go to these things to buy, because it's really, I consider conventions like a glorified flea market, who have actors there so that you can go and get autographs from. Well, there's hundreds of tables selling the stuff we grew up as a kid. Okay. So you go there and you spend hundreds of dollars. In fact, I seen one guy in front of me that blew me away when he paid, I believe it was $2,400 cash right there in front of me for a collection of the first 10 or 15 issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland. And they were in mint condition. So he bought them there in front of me. And I'm like, okay, so when you go to a convention, money's not an option. If a poster is $500, you'll buy it.
Oh, I've seen, yeah. I've seen people spend just ridiculous amounts of money at conventions. Sometimes just on one item. And I think, like you said, posters, man, you could spend thousands of dollars on posters. And I've seen people, pull out wads of cash and drop $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a poster that they've been looking for say 20 years or so. And, they found it at the convention.
They'll see it on eBay. They'll be hesitant to buy it. If they'll see it online, they'll be hesitant. But when you go to a convention, you forget. You'll say, oh, this is only one time a year, whatever. So it's kind of like off limits. You spend whatever amount, no questions asked. Okay.
And I've seen people, go to conventions and have a good time and not even spend, hardly any money. They're just there for the time, for the camaraderie, to talk to like-minded people, to watch the cosplay, to meet the celebrities, and just I go every year to Monster Bash in June, and I've been going there for every year for about the last 10 years or so, and I've met people there that spend thousands of dollars on stuff, and I've met people that don't spend a dime, that they're just there to meet friends that they only get to meet face to face one time a year at this convention. So you get so many different people there, and then you have everybody in between that they might just come for the day or a few hours to peruse the celebrity tables or the market tables or whatever, just looking to see what they could spend their $40-$50 on. And so you get all kinds of different peoples, and it's amazing to see. And then you get some people that just go to do the cosplay, and that's it, which is cool too. Everyone has their own little thing that they like to do. The conventions are kind of like
Comic-Con. Some people dress up there was the one, here's one of my favorite people, and she's a very good friend of mine. I mean, gosh, I've known her already, I think since the early 80s, that I've been going to the same convention for over and over. And then between 2004 and the present, I went there 3 times a year, the famous Chiller Theater Convention in New Jersey. And Sarah Karloff is always there, especially in the October show. So I've become very, very good friends with her, and she's phenomenal. And one day I go up there. So, of course, I go behind the table sometimes, and I sit there with her for a few minutes, say hi to her, talk to her. And this guy comes in dressed as Frankenstein. Man, best outfit makeup I've ever seen. In fact, I think I should put it up on the website so that people could see, because it was such a great costume. And then the funny thing, when we were saying about so much stuff that, you say we're not hoarders because we organize our stuff in a way. We don't just toss it around. But here's an example. I knew that this lady, the aunt of the gentleman I mentioned to you that just started the Twitch channel, this young lady, not young, she's an older lady, but she's been working in Wall Street for years, and she actually owns an original autograph of Abraham Lincoln that she purchased many years ago for a few $1,000s. And I wanted, because she loves, Boris Karloff. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get her 2 photographs and bring it to her. I went, I got 4, 2 for me and 2 for her. And I took her 2, and I took them to work. And to this day, I have no idea what happened to them. Okay? I've searched.
Yeah, that's how a lot of items go. You know, they
And
enter the collection, and it's almost like a black hole, man. They
my
just
son calls it the
disappear.
Twilight Zone. He goes, anything that goes to my dad's storage or whatever never sees the light of day again. And
Oh, I'm telling you, man. I got stuff everywhere. Like, I try to separate it from like collectibles to like reference stuff, that I use for magazine articles or books, and I still just, no matter how organized I get it, it's just I'm still always searching for something, and
you can
most of the
never.
time can
I'm
never
going to give you one
find
that's
it.
going to make you laugh. About a year ago, I have now look at what I'm saying. We're talking about a bookshelf with 5 sections. Okay, bookshelf is 3 feet wide, 4 feet tall. Okay, it's got one shelf, comic books, one shelf, and the comic books I put there are the ones that have ads that I want to make photocopies of or whatever. So they're not. I don't have it. I don't have comic books there for a certain. Oh, this is part of the spot. No, no, no. I just have the comic books there that have the ads that attract me from when I was a kid. And if I need to make a post or a photocopy, I have them handy, so I know which ones have what ads. Okay. The other section are catalogs and stuff from companies that I used to deal with when I used to own my magic shop in 1989. The wholesalers, Elusive Concepts, they used to make those life-size alien statues. Different companies, Topstone Industries, Jemmy Works, those. So among that shelf, I found a year ago what I believe was 2 original Houdini signatures that I think I came across, I don't know, in a flea market back in, I don't know if they're real but I believe they were real because I actually think they were done with a pencil. So I find them and I said to Dave, hey, Dave, I have 2 signatures here. I want you to validate for me. So the signatures, right? I put them back supposedly in the shelf. I don't know what made me not just say, hey, I'm going to put them on the side here. I put them back somewhere inside of a book or something and put it back in this 5-level bookshelf. I came back the following week after David says, show them to me. And I started looking for them. I emptied every book. I could not find it. David drove
Oh man,
from Connecticut 3 hours, comes to my house. We take apart the whole shelf again. Still not found them. I know I put them there. I saw them with my hands. Okay. This was only about 2 or 3 months, 4 months ago. Maybe a little longer. Might have been, I don't know, maybe or January or February. Okay. To this day, it went into a black hole. And
yeah. I
and I'm
unfortunately I
still
know that
asking myself,
feeling, man.
where are those 2 autographed photographs of Boris Karloff? I know I obviously didn't lose them. I had them in my whatever it was in a magazine, whatever. Well, one day I was looking for, and I think I mentioned that when I originally, not the robot plants I'm still looking for, that I ask anybody, whoever ordered the Melton robot plants out there, to please come forward, man. It's been almost 40 years. I'm about to die soon, and I still haven't
Someone,
seen what those plants look like. But anyway,
because someone has them in
they,
their collection, and they're sitting
yeah,
there
it
with
was a
your
collection.
autographs. It's almost like it's almost like the dryer taking one of your socks. It goes to that
Well,
place that you'll never
exactly, exactly. Well,
find.
the thing is that I ordered the Abracadabra Magic Shop robot plants that had, they drew like a Frankenstein. So obviously that I gravitated to that ad more than the other ad from the Melton Company that showed a little guy inside this robot frame. But when you saw the Frankenstein monster, it says build your own monster. It gave, you could see one ad was better than the other. So I gravitated to that and I ordered those plans. When I received them, I thought the envelope was the coolest thing in the world, and I did really enjoy the plans. But here's what happened. They disappeared. Over 20 years went by, 30 years. Right before the book Mail Order Mysteries was put out by Kirk Damaris, about a year before the book, so I'm talking about 2011, 2012, I do not know, I was going through a book I had, and lo and behold, out of the book falls the original envelope with the original monster robot plans in it, right? I was fascinated. I was blown away. In fact, if you have the book Mail Order Mysteries, you'll see a picture of it in there because I let Kirk photograph them. But it's crazy when you find, in fact, I reproduced a HypnoCoin from an original 1960s. I was doing, Todd made me go through some box I had, I don't know, a few months, like a month or two ago. And that's where he found those glasses that I gave him, that he said that he was salivating over the one in the Mail Order Mysteries book, the Aqua Specs. And I said, I know where they are. And so I basically looked for them because he asked me for them. And I wanted to give it to him as a gift. And let me tell you something. I came across a HypnoCoin, the first HypnoCoin I had bought in the 1970s. And I said, hey, this HypnoCoin is different from any HypnoCoin I've ever seen. It looked different. I showed it to Todd. He saw it. He goes, wow, I've never seen that either. And now Todd is the guy who gave me an original American Circle Court HypnoCoin from the 70s. So this one must have been an extra printing from some company. It was not the same Verivue is VERI-VUE, I think is the name of the company that made those coins back in the day. And they were famous for during John F. Kennedy's, when he was running for president, they used to put him in this buttons that would have Kennedy's face. And then when you looked at it sideways, the words "Vote for Kennedy" would come out, and for Nixon. That's the company that started the HypnoCoin before they made the actual spiral design in 3D. So I found this rare HypnoCoin. Well, guess what? I'm still looking for the damn thing. It disappeared, man.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna put a call of action out there to everybody in our audience. Go over to houseoftheunusual.com if you haven't already. Join the forum, and in the forum, let us know if this stuff has happened to you and what you have lost, because I know that we can't be the only one. I know there's got to be other collectors out there who have lost items and cannot find them anymore. So if you are one of those people, head over to houseoftheunusual.com, get on the forum, and start a discussion. Let us know what it is that you've lost and that you still haven't found, or how long did it take you to find this items? Because I know there's got to be a ton of people out there, and I think it would be pretty interesting to see, what, some people might have, misplaced or lost over the years, and, what was the story behind them, hopefully finding it. So I think that would be pretty cool to see, because I know over the years I've misplaced so many things that and I try to be as organized as possible.
Well,
and I just just the other day I was looking for a monster book, and I have tons of bookshelves, and I have one shelf. It has there's I think 6 shelves to it, but 2 shelves are all of my horror movie toy reference books, and then 2 shelves are my science fiction reference books, and then the bookshelf right next to it, there's another row of science fiction and horror kind of mixed in. So I was looking for this book that I bought about 3 years ago at Monster Bash, and it's a very rare book. Came out, I believe, 91. I can't remember the name of it, and it deals with kind of like obscure horror movies from the 30s. And I knew it had a blue cover, and I searched for probably 30 minutes on all my shelves. I couldn't find it. And the next day I was looking for another book, and it was on a completely different shelf. I just stumbled across it. I said, son of a gun. I said, how did this book get here? When I know in my mind that I put all my, my horror and sci-fi books and reference material in a certain place, and here it is on a totally different shelf with my comic book and comic strip reference books. I said, how the heck did it get it there? So I don't know if there's like a in my basement, an alternate dimension going on, and there's these little creatures coming out and moving my books around and playing jokes on me, like some kind of like alternate dimension frat where they have to go into our world to play pranks on us in order to
I'm
to
telling
get
you
into
what,
the
the
frat
only one I
something.
blame for this is Mr. Todd Matchin. Yeah, if it wasn't because of his glasses, I would never have found my Hypnocoin, and I would still have it. But anyway.
Well, see, at least Todd did something there because he don't talk to us anymore. So, Todd, if you're listening, man,
Yeah,
we're
well,
waiting
he's
for
now
you
the
to get back
supreme
on.
master of sea monkeys, Yeah, he's gone up
Yeah,
in
that's
fame.
what I heard. He's got
his own movie
title
coming out, a book. I mean, the guy's so famous right now that I heard actually I tried to contact him recently, and I actually I got to talk to the guy, but I had to go through two people and a secretary. And then I had to write him a letter, and finally I was able to speak with the new legendary Todd, But yeah, he definitely
he's
is.
probably listening
But
to
the
this
thing
cracking
is, you
up.
know what's so funny? I take the stupid Hypnocoin when I found it. I go like, wow, this is cool. I got to show David, man. And I put it inside a book. And I put it because, it was kind of like curved a little, I guess, because it was packed away for years. And the cardboard became a little curly. And I wanted to flatten it out. So I put a bunch of comic books and stuff on top of it inside a book. I put it like in the center of a book. Well, a week later, I forgot what book it was in. And and let me tell you something. I have so many books. Now, here's the funny thing. I have a closet in my house that's about, 4 feet deep, maybe 4 feet wide. It's kind of like a semi walk-in closet. And my wife looks at me and says to me, look at you. Aren't you embarrassed to keep your clothes in there? You have no room for your own clothes. And it's kind of funny, though, because my clothes is so stacked in there that it doesn't fit. And from the very bottom to the very top is packed with magazines, comic books, every collectible known to man.
And you know what? I would move the clothes out of there in a
I have
heartbeat to make
no other
more room
closet to
for
put it in.
collectibles.
My wife barred me from the other closets in the house.
I've told my wife, I said, I have gone without eating for a day or two just because I had extra money that was supposed to go towards food, and I spent it on, comic books or collectibles. I remember a time in high school where, I usually got enough money for 2 weeks worth of lunch for school. I can't remember how much the lunch cost or how much I exactly got, but it was enough to get a lunch every day, 5 days a week for 2 weeks. And, my parents gave me the money on a Monday, and, they're trying to teach me a lesson on how to, manage money and this and that. I think that Tuesday I spent it all on comic books, and I couldn't eat lunch for 2 weeks at school. But I didn't care because I, had what I wanted. And even as an adult, I've gone, without eating or not buying, new clothes or something because I've spent the money on, comic books or toys or other collectibles or books or whatnot. And, it just doesn't matter. I know I'm not the only one.
Here's the funniest thing about what you just said. And it's amazing. It's amazing the amount of stuff I buy when I go to Chiller. Sometimes $500, $600, $700 I waste on things. That's when I get home, I go, darn, I got this thing already, man. And, you buy duplicates because you don't know how much you have anymore. But
oh yeah, that's like the worst, man, because you could have spent that money
let me
on
put it this
getting
way.
something
my
new.
daughter has taken the closet away from me, but I had a closet in my house, this one is 6 foot deep by about 6.5 feet wide. And I had in there 3 5-drawer filing cabinets towards the back of it. And each drawer was packed with comic books and monster magazines from Famous Monsters, Monster World, Eerie, and a lot of Conan the Barbarian. So this thing was packed with old 1960s and 70s magazines, right? On top of it, if you're talking about I'm talking about those boxes you buy in Staples that they're boxes where you put your files in, file boxes. They're about, you know how big they are. They're
Right.
about, I don't know, 18 inches wide by like 12 inches, something like that, or long. And I had, and this is going to make you laugh, 23 of those filled with toys and stuff next to the thing. And the way I packed it was up against the back of the wall. I put the 3 filing cabinets, and then on top of the filing cabinets, I start putting those file boxes up to the ceiling. And then on the side, I start, packing them like that. And I kept packing and packing. Well, the closet itself was so well packed that when you went to close the door, you had to kind of push the door in a little bit because it was right up to the door where I had, let's say, a feather that might have been from an x-ray glasses right here in this little corner. Anyway, that closet was there for 20 years, right? One day, the bathroom next to it, because I have 2 bathrooms in my apartment, the water kind of overflew a little bit and it slipped underneath the wall and it kind of went to the bottom of my closet. But since everything was on 2x4s, because I never put anything on the floor, it didn't wet anything, but it scared me. So I decided I was going to take out everything from the closet and, go over and put it in a private storage. You would figure out it's only 6x6. All I need is like a 5x10 storage. It fits all in there. Oh boy. I rented a 10-foot U-Haul because I wanted to do it all in one trip. Not only did it fill the 10-foot U-Haul to such a way that I actually had to come back and reload it again, that I said, how's that even possible? That a small closet like that can have so much stuff in it. It blew my mind.
Yeah, it's amazing how you it's almost like sometimes playing Tetris, how you learn to pack stuff and just so that you optimize that little bit of space so that you could always fit just a little bit
here's
more.
Here's one example, like Aurora Monsters. Now I have an original Aurora, Famous Monsters of Finland, Forgotten Prisoner of Castlemare. Now, yeah, I was going to say that's my favorite.
One of my favorites, man.
It just looks so phenomenal. I love that one.
I've painted 2 of those, and I want to do a third one. I love that model kit so much. I don't have an original, but the reproductions that came out a few years back, and those things are just awesome to paint, to put together, paint, and then display.
Well, the original I have
come out
is
so nice.
in a square box because I bought it in the early 70s when they no longer had the longer box. They had the square, and it had the glow in the dark parts. That's my original. But I have, ready for this, 11 of the reproductions, from the ones that said Aurora on them to the frightening lightning strikes again, whatever versions, all sealed. I have 2 of them professionally built up. One of them, my best friend gave me for Christmas one day. I think he paid like $150 something for it. It was professionally spray painted, which I think to this day is the best Forgotten Prisoner I've ever seen. In fact, Joe, if I find on my phone the pictures of the one, because I have it somewhere, but I didn't want that open, so that's definitely in a sealed box.
You know what? I have to tell you the story about the Forgotten Prisoner. Now, I years ago I put together and painted one of them, and I like using the the small tester paints that come in the small glass bottles, and I still like using the gel glue and having the X-Acto knife. I just, there's something about the smell of it and just the simplicity of it that that I just love. It's not professional by any means. It doesn't look professional, but it's just fun, and it's very, stress relieving. So the one I did years ago, I kind of, put my own paints on there, and I did it very crudely, just with the tester model kits. Well, last year I took a model building art class, and I took another Forgotten Prisoner there to try to do it, to see how it would come out a little bit more, professionally done. And, I was at the class, I think it was like 5-day class, an hour each day. And the first day was kind of like going over different paint stuff, but we used like, different acrylic paints and all this high tech stuff and all that. And the model came out beautiful, but at the end of the day, I will revert back to using the testers. And there's, even though it looks better when it's kind of like professional, semi-professional done, it's just more fun, using those testers, because that's what I used in the 80s and 90s when I did the model paints, and I wasn't looking for a professional job. I just wanted to have fun and bring the monster to life. You
Definitely.
know what I mean? So I put that subject up on Universal Monsters a few maybe this past spring or so, and a lot of people said the same thing, that although it looks better when they're professionally done or with better paints, a lot of people rather have the small tester paints with the the model glue gel and an X-Acto knife,
Of
and
course,
just
if
sit
you're
there and
gonna
have
do it,
fun with it.
My favorite kit as a kid that I wanted and I bought, because I had no idea what a model kit was when I came from Cuba, and I was about 5, whatever. I had no idea what it was. So what sold me was the Bela Lugosi looking box that Aurora had, the square box. Yeah, and
Oh, I love that.
I didn't know what was
Oh
in the
man,
box. I just wanted it really bad, and it was $1.50.
I just want the box, even if it's empty. I just want an original
I actually
box. I mean, the model
I
would
have
be
right
cool,
now in my possession. I still have the original box that I bought as a kid for $1.50 with the model in it.
uh, I seen somebody, what was it, last year at Monster Bash, selling one for, oh man, it was the glow in the dark
Mm-hmm.
version from the 70s, 72 or 73, and they wanted, I don't know, I think it was like 450 or something like that. And I said I'm gonna wait to see if it's here the last day. I'll make them an offer. Usually last day on shows you could get good deals. And
It was
when I
gone.
checked back later, right when the dealer room was closing on the first day, it was gone.
You know,
Son of a gun, man. I mean, I didn't have if I had the money to spend on it, I would have. But I rolled the dice and took the chance of it still being there the last day, and I
that happened to
kind
me
of
with
lost out. So
I forgot what poster it was, but there was some monster poster, and the monster poster was the guy was asking like $95 for it. It was an original. And I tried to finish it, man. When I turned around, I went back and said the guy sold it. I was like, what?
you know what? I snatched. Speaking of Dracula, I snatched that, and usually I don't buy much stuff the first day. I like to wait, the last day to find the deals. But about 2 years ago at Monster Bash, I was right when the dealer room opened. I walked in, and the first table that I went to, this guy in a frame had a newspaper. I think it was from Cleveland, of with Bela Lugosi right on it, and it came out 2 days after the premiere of Dracula in 1931. So I can't remember the exact date on it, but it was 2 days after the premiere. And I snatched it up quick because I said, man, that is not gonna be lasting. And I carried that around for after I purchased it, I carried it around for a little bit before taking it to my room, and everybody that's seen it was just like gawking over it. I said, yeah, that thing would have been definitely
Of
gone.
course. Well, let me tell you something. I do have in my possession 2 empty boxes of Dracula and one in mint condition of the Dracula model kit. But even though that was and I paid $1.50 for mine, just to let you know, Joe. But
That's crazy.
the Forgotten Prisoner, I really didn't care much. The Frankenstein, I wanted it, I got it, but the one that really, really called my attention as an adult was The Forgotten Prisoner, because I just love the artwork, the way he's looking up in the sky with his mouth open. It's just
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I love it.
Um,
Well, hey Eddie, we got about 5 minutes left here, so let's get some closing remarks and some closing food for thought.
Perfect. Well, again, I would love, as like you said before, for people that are tuning into us, if you guys, can help us out, it'd be great. We would appreciate that. If you guys can try to, give us a couple of stars in iTunes, it'll be phenomenal. And keep listening to us. We already are on our 18th week, and we started, and our audience is growing pretty good. I also like to let people know that I've been putting out YouTube videos each and every week, but I've stopped for the last 2 weeks because I've been redoing my little studio here so that I can make really nice professional videos and review original novelties from the 70s from my collection. Having said that, please come over to houseoftheunusual.com. You will find a link there to everything I'm talking about from the podcast. You can also find links to Gulliver's Babble, which is Gullible's Babble, which is Todd's page, and Crypt of Classic, which is Joe's page. You can find that all at houseoftheunusual.com. So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, and definitely check out Eddie on eBay. What's your eBay store's name?
Separated by hyphens.
Okay, go check that out, because if you're interested in the stuff that we're talking about, Eddie has a ton of that stuff there. There's some of it on. You can find it directly on the web page. Check out the web page, because it's there's a lot of good information there, and especially in the YouTube videos where he does the unboxings and all that, you get to see a lot of these items that we're talking about that if you're not familiar with, or even if you are familiar with, you get to see what they actually look like, and I'm telling you, it's going to bring back a lot of nostalgic memories, back to you. So be forewarned with that. But I can't believe we're already in our 18th week for this podcast. And if everyone out there is listening and enjoying it, go over to, Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review, and, write us a little review saying how much you like us. And on houseoftheunusual.com, on the forum page, there's a section there that if there's ideas that you guys want to hear, or if you want to be a guest, put it on there and we'll get a hold of you, and we'll take your ideas to heart, and gives us something to talk about, because we have a whole plethora of topics that we enjoy. So if there's something that you want to hear out there that we haven't covered yet, definitely put the ideas on there.
And one thing I just want to say too,
that's all I
even
got.
Though that Joe mentioned, you mentioned the eBay store that has a lot of items on, I'm working on a way to migrate all the items over to the website. Now, even though the items will still be available on eBay, you would be able to get a discount by purchasing it directly from a website, because there's no eBay fees there. So we do want to popularize the website a lot more than what eBay would be, because it would be great to just have one marketing venue instead of so many. Exactly.
And everybody loves the discount, so head over there and get away from all those eBay fees and everything, and go directly to the source. So
right.
with that being said, thanks everybody for stopping in, and check out all of our past podcasts, and every Wednesday our new podcast comes
Until
out,
next
so
time.
make sure to check it out. So Eddie, thanks for being on. Yep.